Welcome to my YouTube channel. If your eyes are on these words before August 16, you need to know this is not an accident. Heaven's calendar has no mistakes, and the timing of God is perfect down to the breath you just took. Out of billions on this earth, you were meant to be here, now in this moment, hearing this message. Before you were even born, this date was written into your life script by the author himself. If you are hearing this before August 16, it is not an accident or a random coincidence. In the economy of God, there is no such thing as chance for those who belong to Him. Every moment you encounter, every word you hear, every divine prompting in your spirit is carefully orchestrated within His perfect timing. Your presence in this moment has been accounted for in eternity long before you were born. The Creator who spoke the universe into being also spoke the days of your life into existence. And He has placed this particular moment like a marker on your journey to remind you that He is guiding your steps. There is a precision to the way God operates that the human mind can barely comprehend. He doesn't just work in years or seasons. He works in minutes, in seconds, and even in the breath between your thoughts. The fact that you are here, hearing this message now, is proof that heaven's calendar and your life's timeline are intersecting by divine design. Throughout history, God has operated in exact timing. When Israel was trapped in Egypt, the night of deliverance happened precisely on the Passover, not a day sooner or later. When the Messiah came into the world, it was at the fullness of time, not a moment before humanity was ready. When the apostles were in the upper room, the Spirit came exactly on the day of Pentecost, fulfilling what was written long before. In the same way, this date, this window before August 16, is not arbitrary. It has been written into your story for a reason that will be revealed. You may not yet know why this specific period matters, but God does. In the unseen realm, there are alignments taking place. Doors are being positioned, opportunities are being prepared, and events are being set in motion. Just as the tide changes quietly but inevitably, so the shift in your life is already underway. This is the moment to be alert, to pay attention to what is stirring in your heart, and to notice the subtle movements around you that signal God's hand. If you treat this moment as sacred, you will be positioned to step into what He is arranging. Even delays you have faced, frustrations that seemed meaningless, or unexpected turns in your path have been part of the setup for this exact intersection in time. The one who knows the end from the beginning has scheduled this divine appointment, and your awareness of it now is the confirmation that He has more ahead for you than you have yet seen. There are moments in life when God draws a line in the sand, marking a clear before and after in your journey. Keynote 2 speaks of a divine season where God signals preparation, not for something ordinary, but for something that will require you to be spiritually awake, emotionally steady, and ready to respond without hesitation. This is not about general readiness. It is about a specific call to align your thoughts, habits, and priorities with His will. The timing is intentional. You may feel a sense of urgency in your spirit, an inner pull to clear distractions, to put certain things in order, or to step away from patterns that have kept you stagnant. This is God alerting you that the next chapter cannot be walked into carelessly. It must be approached with purpose. In Scripture, preparation always preceded transformation. Noah built the ark before the floodwaters came. Joseph stored grain before the famine arrived. Joshua consecrated the people before crossing the Jordan. The pattern is the same today. God stirs your heart in advance because He knows what is ahead, even when you do not. This advance notice is His mercy, giving you the opportunity to adjust your path, deepen your faith, and strengthen your inner man before the season shifts. Ignoring these divine prompts can lead to missed opportunities, but embracing them opens the door for breakthrough. This readiness also involves guarding your atmosphere. The people you allow close, the words you entertain, and the voices you listen to in this season can either sharpen your focus or pull you off course. God may lead you to limit your exposure to certain influences, not as a punishment, but as a protective measure. Just as soldiers train intensely before stepping onto the battlefield, You are being trained now for the spiritual and practical demands of what's ahead. This is a time for discipline, pruning, and intentional growth. There is also a prophetic element to such preparation. Many times, what God positions you for will not make sense until you are standing in the moment itself. You may question why He is calling you to take certain steps, why you feel led to let go of something comfortable, or why your routines are being disrupted. But obedience in the preparation phase unlocks the fullness of what He wants to release. This is not simply about being ready for an event. It is about being ready for a transformation of your assignment, your influence, and your walk with Him. When the moment arrives, it will be too late to start preparing. The readiness must be built now, so that when the door opens, you can step through it with confidence, clarity, and divine authority. There comes a point in a believer's journey when God requires a deeper level of trust, one that goes beyond believing for blessings and steps into following His direction, even when the path is unclear. Keynote 3 speaks to this surrender, where faith is no longer just a concept you declare, but a living, breathing choice you make in the face of uncertainty. It is about obeying the promptings of the Spirit when logic cannot explain them, and about leaning on His voice when every other voice seems louder or more convincing. This kind of trust is forged in the quiet moments of prayer, in the wrestling seasons of doubt, and in the courageous decisions to move forward without the full picture. In the life of Abraham, God's command to leave his homeland without revealing the final destination illustrates the essence of this keynote. The instruction was simple but costly: go where I lead you. Trust requires movement without all the answers, and that movement often challenges comfort, security, and predictability. It invites you into a place where your dependence on God must be absolute, because there is no safety net except His promises. In these moments, the natural mind will seek evidence, while the Spirit hears the quiet assurance, I am with you. This level of surrender is also about releasing control over the outcome. Often, we try to obey God while still holding on to our own conditions or backup plans, but true trust means allowing Him to direct not only the steps, but also the timing and results. It may require waiting when you want to act, acting when you want to wait, or embracing a path that doesn't match your expectations. In this surrender, God refines your character, teaching you patience, humility, and resilience. There is also the reality that such trust can lead through seasons of apparent loss or delay, but what feels like a detour is often preparation for something greater. Joseph's journey from the pit to the palace was filled with setbacks that were actually divine setups. Similarly, when God redirects you or closes a door, it is not rejection. It is redirection toward a higher purpose you may not yet see. Walking in this trust requires a steady heart anchored in His Word. It means revisiting His past faithfulness to fuel your confidence for the future. It means silencing fear by choosing to believe His character over your circumstances. And it means stepping forward, sometimes with trembling hands, knowing that even if you cannot see the full map, the one who holds it knows exactly where He is leading you. In this place of surrender, faith matures, and you discover the strength that comes from depending entirely on Him. There are seasons when God calls His people to a deeper awareness of the times they are living in, urging them to watch, discern, and prepare. Keynote 4 focuses on spiritual alertness, the kind that refuses to drift into complacency while the world changes rapidly around you. It is the recognition that not every moment is ordinary, and some seasons carry a weight of prophetic significance that demands your attention. This alertness is not born from fear, but from wisdom, a readiness to respond to God's leading without hesitation when the moment comes. To be spiritually alert means staying connected to the heart of God through prayer and the Word so that your discernment stays sharp. In a distracted world filled with noise, it is easy to be lulled into spiritual sleep, missing the subtle shifts in the atmosphere. God often speaks through small promptings, changes in circumstances, or patterns unfolding in the world, and those who are alert will recognize His hand in them. This keynote calls believers to cultivate a watchman's spirit. Eyes fixed on the horizon, sensitive to both danger and opportunity. Preparation is a key element of alertness. Noah did not start building the ark when the rain began. He acted on God's instructions long before the first drop fell. In the same way, being spiritually prepared means making decisions today that align with God's direction for tomorrow. It is setting aside time, resources, and mental space for what He has shown you will be needed, even if it does not yet make sense in the natural. This readiness allows you to move quickly when God says, "Now," avoiding the panic and confusion that come from delay. Alertness also involves guarding your spiritual gates, your eyes, ears, and heart, from influences that dull your sensitivity to God. The more your life is saturated with distractions or compromises, the harder it becomes to hear His voice clearly. This keynote emphasizes intentional living, where every choice is weighed against the question, does this draw me closer to God or away from Him? It is also about intercession. Those who are spiritually awake stand in the gap for others, sensing dangers they may not see, and praying for God's protection and intervention. A spiritually alert person doesn't just prepare for themselves, but helps others prepare, offering guidance and encouragement to remain steadfast. When this level of watchfulness becomes part of your daily walk, you live with a holy expectancy. You begin to see every shift in your life and the world through the lens of God's purposes. You are no longer caught off guard by sudden changes, because you have trained your heart to stay aligned with His leading, ready to respond in faith the moment He moves. There are moments in a believer's journey when God calls for a clear separation from influences, habits, or environments that weaken faith. Keynote 5 emphasizes the divine principle of consecration, setting yourself apart for God's purposes in a time when compromise is rampant. It is a call to purity, not merely in outward actions, but in thoughts, intentions, and the motives of the heart. This separation is not about isolating yourself from the world in fear, but about refusing to let the values of the world dilute the truth you live by. It is a conscious choice to remain spiritually clean so that nothing hinders your walk with Him. Consecration requires an honest evaluation of what occupies your time, your mind, and your relationships. Sometimes, what God asks you to step away from is not inherently evil, but becomes a distraction that dulls your focus on Him. This keynote reminds believers that even good things can become stumbling blocks if they replace or compete with the place of God in your life. It calls for courage to cut off what drains your spiritual vitality, whether that be toxic connections, destructive habits, or patterns of thought that contradict His word. This level of separation is always followed by deeper intimacy with God. When you create space by removing the noise, His voice becomes clearer. The heart becomes more sensitive to His presence and more receptive to His guidance. Consecration is not a passive act. It demands active dedication to the disciplines that feed your spirit: prayer, worship, scripture study, and obedience to His promptings. In doing so, your spirit grows stronger, and you are fortified against the temptations and deceptions that will grow more intense in the days ahead. There is also an aspect of spiritual authority tied to consecration. When your life is set apart, your prayers carry greater weight, your discernment becomes sharper, and your influence as a light in dark places increases. God uses clean vessels to accomplish His work. By keeping your life aligned with His standards, you position yourself as a vessel He can trust with greater assignments. Separation is often misunderstood as loss, but in truth it is protection. When God asks you to let go of something, it is because He sees what you cannot, that certain influences will only hinder your destiny or endanger your spiritual safety. This keynote is an invitation to trust Him enough to obey, even when it costs you something in the present. What you gain in exchange, peace, clarity, strength, and closeness with God, far outweighs what is left behind. It is a deliberate step into a higher calling, where your life reflects His holiness, and your spirit remains unpolluted in a world that constantly tries to pull you away from Him. Keynote 6 focuses on the urgency of preparedness, not the kind of preparation driven by fear, but one anchored in faith and obedience. It is a call to be spiritually, mentally, and even physically ready for what lies ahead. Seasons change quickly and often without warning, but those who walk closely with God are not caught off guard because they live in a posture of readiness. This readiness begins in the heart. A life surrendered to God's direction is like a lamp filled with oil, ready to shine when darkness falls. It means keeping your relationship with Him vibrant, so that when He speaks, you recognize His voice instantly and can respond without hesitation. Preparedness also involves understanding the times. Just as watchmen in ancient cities stayed alert to spot approaching danger or opportunity, believers are called to watch and discern the spiritual climate. This requires staying rooted in Scripture, because without it, the noise of the world can drown out the truth. Being ready means allowing the Word to shape your perspective so that you can see beyond surface events and recognize God's hand moving. There is a practical side to this keynote as well. Preparation is not only about prayer and study, but also about positioning yourself for action. Sometimes God warns in advance so that you can take specific steps, whether that is storing up resources, adjusting plans, strengthening relationships, or eliminating distractions. Each step of readiness removes vulnerability and builds resilience for whatever challenges may come. This readiness also extends to spiritual warfare. The days ahead may bring pressures and battles that require a firm stand in faith. The armor of God is not something you put on in the middle of a fight. It's something you wear daily so that when the fight comes, you are already protected. Maintaining a lifestyle of prayer, fasting, worship, and obedience creates a fortress around your spirit, making it far more difficult for discouragement, deception, or fear to take root. Readiness is also about alignment. It is possible to be busy, but not in sync with God's timing. This keynote stresses that true preparation is not about doing everything, but about doing the right things at the right time, according to His leading. When your priorities are aligned with His, opportunities and provisions meet you exactly when you need them. Ultimately, this level of preparation produces peace. You are not thrown into panic by sudden changes because your trust is anchored in the One who sees the end from the beginning. Living ready means you can move forward in confidence,